Just in case you missed it, YouTube announced some pretty big changes this week, particularly in terms of monetization and who will be able to qualify for their coveted YouTube Partner Program. And I thought this was a great chance to talk more about the monetization updates and the new requirements, but also talk a little bit about how YouTube has changed over the years and what success on YouTube in 2026 actually looks like, because I feel like it's very different than what it was even 5 short years ago. Of course, you need the usual good content, good thumbnail, good click through rate, but we also are going to talk more about how viewership has changed on YouTube over the years, the increase in competition, and how YouTube actually fits in as one puzzle piece of a larger creative business for creators who are treating this like their full-time job. So we'll talk all about that and the future of YouTube as a platform. And I'll also share an update on what happened when I decided to pivot my YouTube channel 2 years ago. We've talked about this on the pod before if you're already familiar, and whether or not I think that change was a good idea and how it ties into the larger vision for what YouTube is going to look like in the next few years. And we will get into monetization and how to qualify before the requirements increase. But I think the bigger talking point here is that it's not all just about having one viral video that helps you get monetized, right? It's about building a library of content that people love, want to come back to, and will keep tuning into, just like their favorite TV shows. I'm excited to get into all of this. Before we do, though, let's first do a little create and consume, as we do in every episode. So for what I was creating this week, I just shared my Williamsburg neighborhood guide on YouTube. Yes, directing you towards more long form content because that's what I do. Basically, I have been doing this kind of little summer in the city series. I've seen lots of other YouTubers do this over the years, and I thought it would be fun to do with a focus on different New York City neighborhoods. So my first video was in Prospect Heights. My next video, which was released today when I'm filming this, was in Williamsburg. I used to live in East Williamsburg. I lived there from 2016 through 2019, so for 3 years. And I spent a lot of time in Williamsburg proper, where this video was filmed. So I share some of my favorite shops, where to get lunch, where to get coffee, a little museum, and basically everything you need to spend a full day in the neighborhood if you're visiting. I wanted to start with 2 videos in Brooklyn because I feel like when people visit New York, they tend to visit, kind of a lot of the same spots. And I just feel like there is so much more than what you get in the kind of midtown grid in Manhattan, even though there's obviously great stuff there as well. So my hope with this series is that it inspires people to check out a new area of the city or a neighborhood that they otherwise would not have. And I will also have an accompanying little carousel post with this called Neighborhood Notes over on my Instagram. So those will both be live by the time this episode comes out. I will be sure to link them for you. And for what I'm consuming this week, and consuming can be truly anything. Like I've done drinks before, I have done, TV shows, I've done music, I've done media. This week, I have a book for you. I just finished The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. I was kind of blown away that this was her debut novel because it was a banger. It really was. So this novel follows a woman named Sybil who is in her 70s, and she loves keeping in touch with people via the written word. So the book is actually told entirely through letters and emails, essentially all of her correspondence. And she talks to a whole host of people. She, of course, talks to close friends and family members like her brother, but she also talks to authors. She also sometimes gets in back and forths with like customer service representatives from different places, and she'll share her opinion on things. She ends up corresponding with the son of an old work colleague, which is actually a really sweet relationship in the book. And I just really loved this format. I felt like it was a nice break from standard prose, although I was craving, just a tiny bit of prose after reading so many letters towards the end. And I very much teared up at this book and really just felt empathetic and felt sad and felt happy and a whole host of emotions all at once, which I think is the mark of a very well done book. So I will leave a link to The Correspondent in the show notes too, in case any of you are looking for a book to read. If you are not in the book world or familiar, this is probably like the most talked about book from last year, 2025. I was like, wait a minute, what year is it? And yeah, I'm discussing it with my book club this week. So I'm excited to do that. Please, as always, don't forget to let me know what you guys are creating and consuming as well. If you've read something good lately, if you watched a great movie, I would like to hear from you. With all that said, let's focus back now on YouTube. And YouTube has long been my favorite platform. We have talked about it many times on this podcast, like I said already. But I think that my definition of success and also YouTube's definition of success has changed a lot in the last few years. And I think this has to do with how many more creators there are compared to, 5 years ago or even 10 years ago. I think this has to do with viewership and how our attention spans have changed and what people are actually looking for out of content that they choose to consume on YouTube. And I think this has also just changed because we can watch YouTube in so many different places now. Like, I can watch YouTube videos on my Peloton. A lot of people are watching on TV. We're going to talk quite a bit about that today. And you can even download videos offline and watch on planes if you have YouTube Premium, which I do. And I do really, really actually recommend YouTube Premium. It's kind of been a life changer. I should also probably mention that I am not compensated by YouTube in any way. I did previously do one brand partnership with them over on my YouTube channel, talking about how YouTube changed my life. I can link that video if you guys want to check it out. So I have worked with them in the past, but I'm not working with them on this episode or under any obligation to say good things about them. I just genuinely actually love the platform. And I am in the YouTube community. So I do have a partner manager at YouTube. I often attend events and stuff in the city. I attended a shopping event with them a week or two ago at the time this episode is airing that I vlogged over on YouTube. So I get a lot of information from YouTube too. So my hope is that I can share that with you guys and let you know what I have been hearing from the YouTube team in the hopes that it helps you too. But I just wanted to say, because I know I do tend to sing YouTube's praises a lot, but I also will be critiquing them in this episode, that there's no formal agreement of any kind happening for this episode. This is actually completely unrelated, but I uploaded a video this week to TikTok that was me talking about one of my favorite mascaras, and the video actually got held for review because it was just me talking about a product that I loved, and it was this must be paid content, right? Why didn't you disclose your branded partner? We're holding this in review. And I was like, no one paid me to say anything. If they do, I always disclose. So that is just kind of a point of frustration for TikTok, which is especially funny coming from TikTok because of TikTok Shop and how promotional that app has become over the years too. Okay, let's talk about success on YouTube in 2026, because I used to do a lot of YouTube tips and advice on my channel. I have a whole playlist of YouTube tips, and while I think that a lot of my advice still generally stands, I acknowledge that a lot of that was filmed and recorded back in 2021, 2022, and that things have really changed a lot since then. So I really want to use this as a chance to update some of those viewpoints and update some of my opinions on this, because obviously I'm not creating as many sit down tips videos on YouTube now like I was back then for a whole host of reasons. But I think that the biggest true shift that I have noticed is that YouTube now rewards viewer satisfaction so much more than they reward searchability. And I think this is an important distinction, and it almost feels a little bit like what Google did when it finally started penalizing sites for keyword stuffing. Was basically them saying, hey, you can optimize this all you want, but at the end of the day, is your content actually good? And are people actually choosing to click, watch, and stick around once they get over to your content that you were able to get to rank really high in search? In some ways, I think SEO still matters, right? When I title vlogs, I usually try to title them NYC vlog or day in the life of a full-time content creator. I am thinking about the person who would want to watch that content, who's searching on the other end of the screen, but that's not all I'm doing. And I in no way now would try to over optimize for things like keywords if it made me sound in any way not natural or not human, especially with AI and the rise of all of that. Even though I still like to do keyword research and competitor research to understand, hey, there are a lot of, New York City vloggers out there, for example. So the pool of competition is going to be pretty high to figure out little ways that I can narrow things down, right? To focus more on one particular neighborhood or life in the city in my 30s, or just getting the view to be a tiny bit smaller so that it feels more relevant to a person on the other side of things. That's kind of the extent of how I see SEO factoring in with YouTube in 2026, because again, SEO can help you get discovered or help put your video in front of someone, but you still need a great title. You still need a great thumbnail. Like the packaging of your video has so much to do with whether or not someone actually chooses to click through on it. And I have been A/B testing pretty much thumbnails for every single video that I've posted in the last like year and a half or however long it's been since I've had access to that feature to continue to refine like my video recipe and what I think works best for my channel. And I really am still experimenting with those things in some ways, right? Because when I've seen spikes on my channel, like when I've seen videos that outperform others, sometimes it's a very journey based vlog. Like I know my video about discovering my personal style did pretty well. My video about decluttering my closet, which I titled something like Getting Rid of Half My Closet, did well. But then also, like, my Nantucket vlog was something that a lot of people watched, and same with my Italy vlog. So it's interesting to vlog lots of different things and continue to experiment to continue to refine like what people actually want from me, because sometimes it's escapism. Sometimes it's to feel less lonely, like when they're decluttering their closet or trying to figure out what to buy. And I think tapping into emotion and relatability once you've established who you're talking to, again, like, are you talking to someone who's interested in New York City content? Are you talking to someone who's in their 30s? Are you talking to someone who only has 48 hours to explore a certain place? Like, once you kind of establish that and you can tap into the emotion of it, I think that there's a lot more there. And I've been thinking a lot about something Tess Barclay said, and I will link her channel, Busy Blooming, in the show notes too. She does kind of weekly episodes that I find to be pretty helpful. She had talked about in one video, I think it was the one where she mentioned hitting 100,000 subscribers. And she does, chatty episodes every week where she talks about content creation. I actually really highly recommend her channel. There was one video, and again, I will link the one that I think she said this in, where she was talking about how there's so much competition with YouTube that we used to really like hide a lot of the value in the content behind the title, behind the thumbnail. Like, you'll never believe, I'm just using this as a very random example that just popped into my head. You'll never believe how I lost 50 pounds versus if you immediately give value in the title so that people know what they're getting into. Like, I lost 50 pounds by walking 10,000 steps every day. Again, I'm fully making this up just as an example. You already are kind of getting value because even if you don't click on that video, there's a little signal in your head that'll go, oh, if I walk more, then maybe I will reach my fitness goals, or oh, that's one person's experience. Or maybe today, instead of, forcing myself to do the Barry's boot camp class that I've been dreading, maybe I could still go for a long walk and move my body. Like, I don't know, at least it gives you that little hint of something. Whereas the video that's like, you'll never believe this crazy secret helped me lose weight. It's like, okay, just keep scrolling. If you're not going to immediately tell the person what it is, then what is it? Based on all of that and what I've now seen that I think really works on YouTube in 2026, I am extremely glad that I chose to pivot my channel 2 years ago. I did do a whole episode where I talked about how to know when to pivot. It was actually episode 22 of the podcast. So if you haven't listened to it yet, I will drop it in the show notes just for easy access. But the very short version of that story is that I used to do a lot of sit-down tips videos for content creators, and they were very heavily optimized like for retention. They often led to the sale of like a digital product or my digital course, and it was a good system in a sense. Like, it was an okay business, but I just didn't love it. I fell out of love with it pretty quickly, and I found myself constantly just like repeating the same topics because it's like, well, the people want to know about Instagram Reels, so let me keep talking about them. Or the people want to learn about how to grow your YouTube channel from zero, so let me make 3 different videos that are different variations of that topic. And I just felt like I was getting totally burnt out. I felt like I was tapped out of information to share. And I felt like a robot. I felt like I was stripped of all my personality to make sure that I was optimizing for all of the points in my videos. And I was so focused on hitting the points and sticking to my script and saying the exact right call to action that my personality went out the window. And that is a sucky feeling, because when you feel like you're just a vessel for like telling someone else something, it does kind of give AI in a sense. And it does feel like you are just a product of whether or not people find value or a tip from your content, and that you don't have any value as a person. And that's maybe a bit of a stretch and a bit of an overstatement, but I was doing that basically every week for like 2 years. And it made me feel very burned out. And I got invited to Made on YouTube in October of 2024, which was what led me to ultimately make this pivot when I was in a room with like all the biggest YouTubers. And I always say that I'm not totally sure how I got invited to that event. And then I hear like, don't sell yourself short. And like, of course you would. I actually, no, I still don't totally understand why I was invited to that event. I was by far the smallest creator in the room. Like the next smallest creator that I talked to had like 60,000 subscribers, which is arguably 3 times as many as I have. And I was literally in a room with Hope Scope, with Michelle Kerr, with Brandon B, with Colin and Samira, like with all of these people who just one of their channels has like millions and millions of subscribers that like I could barely even comprehend. And that event really opened my eyes, though, to the fact that I was being pretty limited in the sense that I was just talking to content creators. And I love talking to content creators, by the way. Like I wasn't looking to stop talking to content creators. I just wanted to talk to more people and kind of broaden my experience and talk more about how it could relate to just other people. Like even, if I were to share a video about how I use Notion, like I can share how I use it as a content creator and how I organize things, but I also use Notion to store recipes. I use it to keep my book reviews together. And like that's something that non-creators would hopefully also be interested in. And once I kind of had that unlock, I decided to switch over to vlogs. And again, at first I tried to keep it pretty creator focused, like focusing more on my business, the behind the scenes of how I was creating content and what I was working on. But I also used it as an opportunity to then start to dip my toes like a little bit in each vlog back into lifestyle, which was what my channel started as. If you go all the way back to 2017, there were fashion hauls, there were beauty reviews, there were week in my life in New York City vlogs. Like that is what I started doing. And I should have never really strayed from that. Like if I were to say that out loud and think about it. But I did, I got a little lost in the sauce and was following, like the Amy Porterfields and the Jenna Kutchers of the world and getting very into the whole idea of digital products and passive income, all of which, by the way, I love creating and have absolutely changed my business by adding all those passive income streams to it. I have no regrets about like the creation of it, but I do wish that as far as YouTube goes, that I hadn't really strayed from my lifestyle roots. To tie that back into the larger conversation about what works on YouTube in 2026, sitting and talking and just giving information devoid of personality, I don't think works anymore. And I am glad that I kind of had the foresight to make that shift 2 years ago and that I'm not just realizing that now. But also, if you are just realizing that now, that's okay. And there's still time to course correct and qualify for the YouTube partner program before they change their monetization threshold. So let's talk about that. Last week, YouTube announced that they are going to be increasing the requirements to join their partner program, which I have been a part of since I want to say 2019, I think. I think it took me about 2 years to qualify in my first go round, and the requirements were the same then. However, starting February 1st, 2027, they are changing the requirements. So this is a quote from the Business Insider article that I actually also contributed quotes to. I can link in the show notes if you want, along with the announcement post from YouTube about exactly what is changing. They said, starting February 1st, 2027, the main YouTube partner program ad revenue threshold doubles from 4,000 to 8,000 qualified public watch hours for long-form creators, while shorts creators go from 10 million to 20 million qualified shorts views. The 1,000 subscriber requirement remains. Importantly, existing YouTube partner program creators aren't affected by the new entry thresholds. So that's good, right? In theory, once you're in, and I'm not necessarily going to get kicked out if for some reason I didn't hit 8,000 watch hours in a year. Although I'm pretty sure my channel has very easily hit that in a year, just given the fact that I have been uploading weekly now for 9 years. However, one thing that's kind of interesting for shorts creators is that they will need to basically retain 10 million views across a 90-day period to continue to have access to AdSense. And that I actually think is crazy. Because first of all, I mean, 10 million views alone, just getting it one time on shorts, is not going to be achievable for like, call it 90% at least of content creators, right? But I think this is such a misguided policy from YouTube also, because I think that I'm making an assumption that YouTube has instituted these higher thresholds now because of the influx of content created by AI and the influx of content that is potentially created exclusively by AI, not even like a creator is using AI for one part of their video. I have to imagine that that is flooding people's feeds and algorithms. But if you want people to retain 10 million views across 90 days, like indefinitely to stay in the program, I think there's only going to be a spike in AI generated content of people throwing spaghetti at the wall to try to hit that metric. I did see a creator on Threads. I sadly did not like screenshot this post. I wish that I had, but he was talking about how his channel has a smaller percentage of views. I think it may still be like around a million or under that he gets from shorts. And he said he makes about like $2,000 to $2,500 a month from that. And he cited that as something that he uses to pay his team to basically, like, I don't know what exactly they do, whether it's video editing or posting or scheduling or strategy. But he was like, to just know that I'm basically gonna like lose that income sucks. Because I think YouTube's argument and potentially one of their reasons for increasing these thresholds could be how much money are you really making at, 10 million views on shorts or 4,000 watch hours? And the answer, though, is it really depends on the creator because RPMs are different across the board. Like, I know some content creators who have fewer than 50,000 followers who I just know are making still probably like $2,000 to $2,500 a month from long form content and views. And there could be creators who have like 100,000 followers who are making, I don't know, maybe even like $50 a month from shorts. Like it really does vary, but it doesn't change the fact that maybe the shorts creator uses the $50 to pay for Opus clips so that they can clip their long form content to upload it to shorts. And that kind of just covers that cost. So again, when it came down to like, why is YouTube actually doing this? They didn't really give a clear answer in their announcement post or in the accompanying video that was in there. But as I mentioned already, I think it has something to do with the amount of new content exclusively created by AI that has flooded the platform. And also, maybe they're hinting, yeah, that one viral video isn't enough to sustain an influencer business. But I don't know, like, even with one viral video, if it hits big and gets 20 million views and you would have gotten $3,000 from the partner program, like, but now you're just not going to get that? Now you're not going to be rewarded at all for having one video that popped off. So it's interesting to think about. Now, here is what I would do to qualify for the YouTube partner program before the requirements double February 1st. Starting right now, and you basically have like, 6 months to do this, or maybe 5. I would upload one long form vlog a week. And yes, we are focusing on long form here because shorts, these new requirements are very volatile. Like, unless you consistently upload content and get like 300,000 views on every single video and you upload every day, I don't know how you're going to sustain that. So I think your focus is much better spent on hitting 4,000 watch hours in 365 days for long form content. And again, these have been the requirements of the partner program since the mid 2010s. They are now changing, though, in a couple of months. So I would upload one long form vlog a week. And I say vlog because it's just going to be the easiest for you to actually stay consistent with, at least in the beginning. Like, even if you think you ultimately want to do sit down videos or do a podcast format like this, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, there are going to be times that you can do that and expand later on. But if you feel like you don't have time right now to sit down and script and upload one long form video a week, and if you're in this position, you probably haven't had time to do that because otherwise you would have done it already or you would have qualified already. That's why I feel like a vlog is a good way to go because it can be less polished. People are pretty forgiving in vlogs about, I don't know, background noise or poor lighting. Like, they would rather be taken along for the moment, even if it's not perfectly captured, than to see like the perfect filming setup, so to speak. You really don't need any fancy edits. You can edit on CapCut. You can edit on iMovie. I still edit on iMovie. No one believes me when I say that, but I do still edit on iMovie, and I have a whole tutorial for it that I will link in the show notes. Wow, the show notes today are going to be stacked with a lot of stuff, so please do feel free to check them out and use any of these resources that I'm mentioning. And again, you can shoot this content on your iPhone. Like, the camera on this is really good. And every once in a while, even in like weird lighting settings and things like that, sometimes I use it over one of my fancier air quotes cameras. So you can absolutely do it on iPhone. I think that you should figure out a photo storage system so that you can keep track of all your vlog files and all your other content, but you can do it on your phone. And again, I think the most important thing is to just think of the person that you're talking to. Are you talking to a busy mom? Are you talking to a career confused millennial? Are you talking to someone who's looking to get into the fashion industry? Like, who is the person on the other side of your video? And what are they struggling with? What are they thinking about? What are they missing from their life right now that your content could help them feel less lonely about, or fill the void of, or get inspiration for what to change or do next? And again, don't worry too much about, like, you don't have to design a YouTube intro. You barely even have to do an outro. Like, you really don't need any of that stuff in 2026. Think of whatever you can do to just stay consistent. And it could even be something as simple as you film a get ready with me and you talk for 10 minutes. And I would try to make these videos at least 10 minutes long, so that when you do qualify for the partner program, you could take advantage of mid-roll ads, which are added to all videos that are 8 minutes or longer. And long form, I do think, is always still going to be the bread and butter of YouTube. So in addition to, like, when we talk about the formats of YouTube, of course, there are shorts now, which I think are good for discovery. And you can also link a short to a long form video to encourage people to watch the longer version or watch a similar video on that topic. There is also live streaming on YouTube. I don't do this at all, really, but I feel like it has a good chance to connect with probably like your top 1 or 5% of fans who would want to tune in to hang out with you live. But really, the bread and butter of YouTube is always going to be long form content. And I talk a lot more actually about long form content in episode 38 of the podcast. It's actually called the Long Form Content Renaissance. And I talked about why I thought long form was really making a comeback, especially in the age of being so inundated with so much short form content. So more on that in episode 38. But as far as what I think of the long form content on YouTube these days, I feel like there are primarily vlogs, sit down videos, or story times, and also podcasts. So again, I do think vlogs are the way that I would go if I were just starting out and trying to hit the monetization threshold, because I do think they are low maintenance in terms of you just stitch all the clips together. It doesn't require a ton of editing, and you'll be pretty much good to go. But if you just want to be able to sit down for an hour and yap and just trim in between the silences and get a clip out, basically like what I'm doing with this podcast, again, if you're watching on YouTube, you could potentially go that route, as long as you actually have something to talk about each week and as long as you stay consistent with your uploads. But I think the key theme with any of those long form content formats that you choose, whether it is story time or vlogs or a podcast, is that it feels episodic and that it feels like someone tuning into their favorite TV shows. So one of the things that the YouTube team has been talking about at every event I've gone to with them that have been in their email blasts out to content creators is talking about the rise of people who are watching YouTube in their living rooms. And when we say in their living rooms, we're really talking about on their televisions. And there's a lot to talk about in this era of YouTube in living rooms. I mean, there are YouTube creators like Michelle Kerr, who's the host of Challenge Accepted, and Korean Mama, who's the host of Subway Takes, who have been nominated for Emmys. Like, that alone should signal a shift of people are producing shows that are being recognized the same way that television shows are being recognized. People are looking for episodic formats that they can return to each week. I think that if The Summer I Turned Pretty or Love Island, which are two of the biggest TV shows in the last 5 years, have shown us anything, it's that people have missed appointment television. And even if it's not at the same exact time every week, although I would encourage you to post at the same time every week just for consistency and for your own sanity, even being on the same day, being like Tuesdays are the days that Austin's vlogs drop, or like Wednesdays are the day that there's a new episode of The Summer I Turned Pretty, which sadly there's not. I miss that show and I need the movie. I need the movie. Also, if you haven't heard this yet, the Oscars are going to be moving to YouTube exclusively in 2029. ABC has been airing the Oscars for like 50 years, and they said, you know what, going forward, we're going to be on YouTube. Like, if that does not add to the many signals of the death of network television and traditional TV, I don't know what does. So, what is creating consistent YouTube videos that work on TV or in the living room look like for content creators? I tried to put together this like little bulleted list of a couple of key elements that I think both share. So number one is a recognizable host, which is you, like you're the main character or you're the person guiding them along or explaining what's going on or showing them around or whatever it is. Another is a recurring format. So again, if that's week in my life vlog and you upload every week, then great, you're done. Or maybe it's like girl talk and it's a podcast format and every week you're talking about what it's like to be a woman in 2026. And if you start that show, send it to me because I would love to listen. When you think about your favorite TV shows and some of the recurring elements or things, maybe it's, I mean, I hope it's not this, but maybe it's a laugh track. Just as an example, maybe it's the theme song, right? Like using the same intro music. So people are like, okay, I'm back in this person's world. I'm back in this setting. Maybe it's the font or the text on screen that you use in your videos or how it appears. Maybe it always comes in with a little typewriter noise. Maybe it just pops onto the screen. Maybe it's very subtle and it just appears with no noise. Like little details like that, ultimately figuring out what your style is a pretty clear and interesting way to, again, refine your perfect video recipe for YouTube, because what works for me is not always going to work for someone else and vice versa. Also, if there are bingeable episodes or it's possible to create a bingeable format, I will say Week in My Life is a tiny bit tough with this because those tend to be pretty in the moment. They also tend to be pretty like seasonal. So for example, if you go back and watch A Week in My Life in March, it would still be probably fun, but like there might be snow on the ground. And if you're watching that in August, that just might feel a little strange. So it really depends. But ultimately, you want to give people a reason to come back. And I think the thing that clicked for me ever since I pivoted my channel and ever since I've gone back into the lifestyle direction is I want the reason someone comes back to my channel or that tunes into the podcast each week to be me. Because again, I am unique. I cannot be replaced by AI. You can try to replicate me. You can like do your best. But at the end of the day, I am irreplaceable. And I think that is a really good reason for someone to want to come back time and time again, week after week, because you like the person. And this has happened to me with creators who I've followed over the years where maybe they started out doing all beauty tutorials and now they are more focused on home or cooking or whatever. If the interest is really, really far off from why I followed the person in the first place, if I like the person, I'm not going anywhere. Like, even if I don't know that much about cooking or am not renovating an 18th century home in Connecticut or whatever it is, like, if I care enough about the person and I like their vibe and I want to stick around and I want to support them, like, I'll listen to them talk about crown molding or I'll listen to them talk about plant-based pasta sauces. I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyway, I have followed creators where if they stop talking about a topic that I initially followed them for and they start to annoy me or something, then I realize, okay, I was really here for the content and not the person. And that's okay. I'm sure there are plenty of people who found my account at some point because I was helping them grow on YouTube who unsubscribed when I was like, Week in My Life and come with me to get a haircut, because they were probably like, where's the girl who used to give me YouTube tips? That's all fine. But when I posted my pivoting video where I announced like I'm changing my whole channel, did a whole long discussion about it, I can link it down below. A lot of the comments were very encouraging and basically saying like, we're not going anywhere. And so that was really reassuring for me at the time where I was doing something that felt kind of self-destructive. Like, I did have a good business model in place and I was making AdSense money and people were funneling to my course. And like, what if I just stopped all of that? It was really reassuring to see people say like, we like you. You can post about a whole host of things and we'll stick around. And In some ways, I think that's proven to be true. I know for a fact there are many people who did drop off after that video, but it was nice to see that people felt that way. And it has been nice to see my channel slowly but surely growing again now that I feel like I am creating the type of content that I want to be creating for a long time. So now when I get new people into the mix, they know what to expect and I know what I'm going to create, and everyone is more on the same page of like what they're doing and what they can expect from following me. So, as we close out today's chat, which I hope was helpful for everyone, if I think about like a long-term plan, even beyond February, of what I would continue to focus on if you really want to grow a YouTube channel and make it a core part of your creative business, I would say that think about continuing to get recommended over time. I think that one of the most powerful features YouTube actually has is suggested videos. I've noticed a lot more of my traffic coming from suggested videos where someone is watching a video on one topic and maybe they're like a minute in and they kind of gave it a chance, but they're not super interested in it. And there are suggested videos on the side. When someone clicks over to my video from one of those, I actually feel like they are more likely to stick around if they actually like my video, if I do a good job hooking them from the beginning and getting into the content and showing them that what they clicked on is what's actually in the video. I think that that's a powerful viewer to try to grab because they've already shown that they're interested in that topic if they clicked on a different video. And I'm making this up, but maybe they clicked on like a Banff vlog and the video that they clicked on was like the first 4 minutes are like the person in their hotel room unpacking. And it's like, we want to go to Banff. Like, we want to see the mountains. We want to be outside. Like, or at least that's how I feel when I click on certain travel vlogs. So I always try to like get right into it with mine. So in my Banff vlog, I have beautiful scenery straight from the beginning. I have maybe like 15 seconds of a tease of like what you're going to see in the rest of the video. And then I spend maybe like 15 to 20 seconds on our travel day. And then just like that, we're in the mountains and that's when the video started. So I feel like you get into it a lot quicker. And the pictures in the thumbnail, like of the mountains and stuff, like that's what you're seeing right when you start watching the video. So I feel like that alignment is really strong. And again, someone who clicked on a video where someone's in their hotel room, like explaining the trip for a long time. And there are probably creators who do a great job of that. I'm not saying that that means that format is bad. I'm just saying that's an example of why I could see someone moving from a video they're currently watching to, oh, I'd rather watch this other thing that's suggested to me because it looks like it might be a little better. So hopefully that made sense. I would also say that my long-term goal as a YouTuber would be to build like a bingeable whole library of content that people can always come back to. So again, maybe you're not going back and watching A Week in My Life I did in March, but maybe you want to visit New York in September and I have a vlog from last September where I show, you know, fall things that I did in the city or something like that, or a Fashion Week vlog and you want to see how'd you get invited to Fashion Week, outfits, all of those things. I like having that library of content so that when someone asks me about something, I can be like, let me send you the video. Because then I'm getting the watch time, I might be gaining a new subscriber, and I feel like it's a really fun and visually stimulating resource for someone that makes for easy sharing and could also, again, kind of convert someone to become a subscriber or a fan. And keeping people coming back for more, I think, you know, in A Week in My Life, I will try to allude if I can, or if I remember to at the end of a video to say, by the way, guys, next week, what am I actually doing next week? Let me think of a real example. Next week, I'm going to the Mets game with my dad. So if you want to see if the Mets are really going to turn their season around, then be sure to stick around for next episode. Or in my New York City neighborhood guides, I kind of did the first two. And then I said, you know, let me know which New York City neighborhood you want me to see next. So I did get a viewer suggestion. If I get another one when I finish filming the third video in that series, if I know what the fourth neighborhood will be, I would say stick around because next week we're going here. Hopefully that makes sense. And I think that series can be pretty powerful on YouTube. I was trying to look back and see what series I've done on my channel because I've done a lot of mini series before. I would say like my number one recurring format is still going to be like A Week in My Life or A Day in My Life. But at the end of last year, I did the Glow Up series, which was a series of 4 videos getting ready to make 2026 my best year ever. I have been doing this neighborhood series, like I've talked about, where I basically go to a different New York City neighborhood and bring you around and do different cultural and fun things. I try different lattes and coffee shops and whatnot. I did also do like a moving series when we moved into this apartment. So I did one video where I kind of like announced that we were moving. I did a whole renovation vlog of this apartment. I did the actual move in day. And then I did 2 more vlogs after that, I think, of like unpacking and getting organized. So I would call that the moving series, even if I didn't like officially title it that. And maybe I should have. Maybe if I had packaged it that way, people would have wanted to like keep coming back for all of those episodes. And that's just something that you kind of learn through trial and error, and that like I'm thinking about right now as I'm talking to you, but maybe I didn't think about in the moment. So if you have something like that that you think will work well as serial content, absolutely worth a try on YouTube. And I think to just wrap this conversation, I feel like YouTube has changed a lot as a platform, and we've really moved away from like just upload a video and hope it works to like you're almost a one person TV studio in a sense, and you really get to decide, what does my show look like? What is the music? What are the visual cues? What's the vibe? Is it chatty? Is it completely silent and ASMR? Is it a mix of montage and talking to camera? Like, you get to really be the creative director of the whole thing. And I think that when you think of it as a continuous and episodic thing that you are continuing to try things out with to perfect your recipe versus just a series of one-off things that happen here and there, I think that cohesion and that through line will keep people invested and wanting to come back for more. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. Please let me know what your thoughts are on all of this too. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening, or subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and I'll talk to you all again next week.